Paul Clifton Anthony George was born in Palmdale, California on May 2, 1990. His parents, Paul and Paulette George, were very happy to have a beautiful baby boy. He has two sisters who are older. PG-13 went to Palmdale's Knight High School. He was a three-star recruit who went to Fresno State and averaged 17 points and 7 rebounds per game. George quickly became a star after the Indiana Pacers picked him with the 10th overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft. George became famous in the NBA when he went up against the primed LeBron James and the famous Big Three of the Miami Heat in back-to-back seasons. Paul George is listed as a shooting guard, but he can guard positions 1 through 4 as a 6'9" wing. This is a rare skill. His rangy defense has helped him reach the elite level of individual value. George was only 23 years old when he led the Indiana Pacers to a brutal 7-game series against the eventual champions, the Miami Heat. This series put George on the map as one of the best young basketball players in the world. When Indy's 22-year-old rising star drove down the lane past LeBron and the defending champs with 66 wins, we all knew it would be a long series. George is also known for iconically dunking over Chris the Birdman Anderson. With the Pacers, George only became a bigger and bigger star. Even though they lost David West, Roy Hibbert, and Lance Stevenson, the Pacers didn't pair George with anyone really good. In August 2014, George broke his lower leg in half during a Team USA practice game. This made it impossible for Indiana to make another run at the title in the 2014-2015 season. Every NBA fan thought that injury looked and felt terrible. Here, George was only 24 years old and coming off his best season as a pro. George was in the running for the MVP award at the end of the season. Now, everyone was wondering if George would ever be the same player again after he hurt his leg so badly. George came back to the court after a long year of recovery, and the years after the injury, he looked better than ever. Again though, the Pacers could never pair anyone with any real talent to support George, so George, who was unhappy, made it clear that he wanted out. Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis were given to the Thunder in exchange for PG. He again showed that he's one of the best two-way players in the world when he finished in the top 3 for both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Talk about being in rare company. When the LA Clippers made a deal for George right after signing reigning Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard as a free agent, the NBA world literally shook. Even though they haven't reached their full potential as a pair yet, George and Kawhi are both getting healthy again to help the Clippers hopefully get to the finals, something they haven't done before. Let's see if Paul George can help the Clippers get there. Now that we know a little bit about Paul George's career, let's look at how much he's made. Contracts. Paul's first deal was for 2 years and was worth about $4.6 million. In his first season, he averaged 8 points per game, and in his second season, he averaged 13. In just his third season in the NBA, George's scoring average jumped to over 17 points per game, putting the league on notice. This led him to making his first NBA All-Star team and being named Most Improved Player of the Year. But as George's play on the court got better and more impressive to NBA fans, the numbers on his contract got bigger. George signed a 5-year rookie max extension that was worth $91 million and would start in the 2014-2015 season. On average, that's about $18 million per year. He was no longer a rising star. Instead, he was a monster. Then PG-13's broken leg, which shocked the NBA, was the biggest setback of his career. After what seemed to be a 1-year break at OKC, George shocked fans when he signed a 4-year, $137 million deal with the Thunder in 2018. That works out to an average salary of $34 million per year, after making almost $20 million in the season before. When Paul was picked up by the Clippers, he got what he wanted. George signed a 4-year, $190 million deal right before the start of the shortened 2021 season. That's a salary of $44 million on average. What a great way to get a raise. Endorsements. Since a long time ago, PG-13 has been a star in the NBA, but it wasn't until 2017 that George's activities outside of basketball really started to add to his annual earnings. In 2017, Nike made George's first shoe with his name on it. It was called PG-1. They've made more versions of the sneaker, and the PG-6 is our favorite. In the fall of that year, it was announced that George would be the cover athlete for NBA 2K. I think a lot of us remember the famous Gatorade ad where he hit the game-winning shot on camera, which was also filmed in 2017. But as the saying goes, the rich get richer. George makes about $8.5 million a year from things he does away from the court. Wow. House. PG's first home was a 12,000 square foot mansion on a half-acre in Indianapolis with a private dock. The living room had a beautiful view of the water. The kitchen is light and has an aquarium built right in. He built a koi pond and had a pool table. It also had an elevator, a wine cellar, and almost every room had a view of the lake. When Paul moved out of Indiana, he sold the house for $2.1 million. Paul George owned a house in Los Angeles long before he was traded to the Clippers, just like many other NBA players. He had a big house in Hidden Hills, spanning 16,000 square feet with 7 bedrooms. The house has a home theater, a gym, a wine cellar, and a games room. Outside, there are lawns, plants, and fruit trees, as well as a large patio, a pool and spa, a full basketball court, and an entertainment area with a fire pit. Because PG-13 wanted to move up, he sold his house to the rapper French Montana for $8.4 million. George bought a mansion in Pacific Palisades in September of that same year. If you think that sounds like a luxurious neighborhood, that's because it is. The former LA Clippers player DeAndre Jordan used to live in this 3-story monster mansion with an elevator. The house is 10,000 square feet and has 10 bathrooms and 7 bedrooms. There's also a swimming pool, a wine cellar with temperature control, an elevator, a putting green, and a half-court basketball court. He paid a lot of money, $16 million, for this beautiful house right here. What a great way to live. Cars. PG-13 spends a lot of his money on his incredible collection of cars. In 2016, he bought a Ferrari 458 Spider, which was George's dream car, and probably a dream for a lot of us as well. In his garage, George also has a Ferrari F430 and a Porsche Panamera. A few years ago, when George was engaged to his now wife, he gave her a white Range Rover SUV for Mother's Day. Love life. Daniela Roddick and Paul George have been on a roller coaster of a relationship since Roddick filed a paternity lawsuit against George in 2013. Roddick sued George, saying that he asked her to give up their baby for money. This happened while George and the Pacers were in the Eastern Conference Finals, trying to get to the NBA Finals. Daniela used to be a stripper, and now she has a line of swimwear called Nude Swim. But since then, they've both gotten back together and have been together ever since. During their time together, they've had 3 children. Roddick made the news public with an Instagram post captioned, "Forever and ever," letting everyone know that her and George had gotten married. We're glad that everything turned out well. Net worth. PG-13's career has had some very low points and also some very high points. But now, we need to find out exactly how much Paul George is worth. Paul George has a net worth of $110 million with everything going on in his life. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please consider dropping a like and subscribe to the channel for more celebrity and basketball content.